Hello. Firstly, I want to address the swelling on the side of my face. For the first time in years, I felt like a little kid. I had to go to the dentist and get a tooth extracted. This is the result of not dental phobia, but a numbness phobia. I have this paranoia of getting my tongue numb that I allowed a simple thing such as a cavity turn into a bone infection to the point where it went on for a few years and I actually needed to get a bone graft. And it's surprisingly not as swollen as I thought it would be. I didn't expect to be able to speak. I thought I was going to be in like a pretty bad state, but knock on wood, luckily enough, 2 days later, I'm pretty okay. So fingers crossed I don't jinx myself and wake up tomorrow and I'm like, pfft. I wanted to tell you about a time I got into a fight at a goth club, and it didn't get physical, but had there not been people in between us, it most certainly would have gotten physical. I think after many hours it managed to progress into this one big explosion. But I'm gonna kind of take it back a little bit and tell you about the people or the person in question. There was this duo, we're gonna call them Natasha and Johnny, who were best friends, and they were 2 years younger than myself and my group. And 2 years when you're in your 20s, when you're in your 30s, it's really no big deal. But when you're a teenager, it may as well be a lifetime. Natasha and Johnny, they were really, they were difficult people to be around because they were sort of physically and mentally exhausting. They were incredibly loud and obnoxious, and they loved to be the center of attention. In fact, they vied for that attention and would go to great lengths to get that attention. If they weren't getting it, Natasha was prone to these loud, sort of squealing tantrums, and it made me crazy. But the suck part is the reason that people kept them around, I guess, is because they were very heavily into any drug that you can possibly imagine. If you could smoke it, snort it, swallow it, whatever, they were doing it. And this was a period where a lot of my friends were experimenting, and whenever they hung out with Natasha and Johnny, I knew what they were doing. But I'm not about that life. I don't like drugs. I've never touched a drug in my life, and I don't plan to ever. So you have to mentally prepare if you know that you're going to be around Natasha and Johnny, because they, like I said, they're a lot of work to be around, and they're the kind of people that whenever you get into any sort of discussion with them, even if it's in passing, immediately they're talking shit about somebody. They're saying something awful about somebody who isn't there. So they're talking crap about everybody behind their back, but the second the person's in the room, it's their best friend. So you know that these are the kind of people that it's only a matter of time before they turn on you. And they're definitely people that I wanted to keep at arm's length. And I managed to do that quite successfully until one night where they got my phone number, thanks to whoever gave it to them. So one night I'm at home and it's a weekend, and they managed to call me. They're both at Natasha's house and invite me over for a three-way. Not happening. I don't know how. I guess I got really uncomfortable, and I managed to steer the conversation and let them know that I was going to the London After Midnight concert in a couple weeks, which was on February 16th at the Angel Orson Sands Foundation. This was hit the camera. This was 1997 at the Angel Orson Sands Foundation, and I was also going to be going to the after party at the bank, which I was really excited about. And Johnny had made it a point to let his intentions be known that he wanted to hook up with me, I guess, which I definitely wasn't into, because not only did I not like him as a relationship prospect, I just didn't like him as a human being. They were, like I said, they were people I did not want to be around, and I wasn't interested. Plus, like I said, I'm 17, they're 15, and it may as well have been a lifetime, but I kind of awkwardly don't know how I managed to end the conversation. And I go to the concert with somebody who I actually was interested in, and we ended up being in a relationship for like 8 years, so it turned out really well. However, Johnny shows up and he is trying to hook up with me. So Johnny's overstepping some bounds here. He's touchy, he's feely, he's trying to put his arm around me, and I don't like that. Now, if you're my friend, I could be a very touchy-feely person too. High five, give you a hug, that kind of thing. But if I don't like you, don't touch me. And he's making me very uncomfortable. And then Steve, who I also happen to be interested in, is getting these mixed signals. Hi, what's going on? So I have to very diplomatically, like I said, I don't want to be on their bad side because they're just pains in the asses, and I was definitely not about to deal with a temper tantrum. So I very diplomatically said, listen, I don't like you like that. I'm really not interested. I'm sorry. And that was really it. On top of the very obvious, the fact that I wasn't interested in him that way because he was a douche. He was also very obviously gay, but he was at a point where everybody knew it, but I guess he was still sort of processing it and trying to really wrap his head around it. But needless to say, after this incident, oddly enough, he's openly pursuing men and is in a relationship with a guy. So fast forward, it's a few months later now, and Steve and I are now officially dating. And there is a concert at the Batcave. It's Sofia Run and Black Tape for Blue Girl. And I was really looking forward to it because I'm totally into Black Tape for Blue Girl. I had heard limited Sofia Run, but from what I did hear, I really liked it. And I was interested in seeing them in person. So it was really exciting. Now, the thing about New York around that time is you could smoke in clubs. It was legal. But when people wanted to kind of get away from the noise, they wanted to hear themselves think, they wanted to speak to one another and actually hear each other, we would go to this one front hallway. It was the hallway that you would enter in. So you'd walk up this flight of stairs, and there was this kind of snaky hallway that led you to one of the rooms of the Batcave. And that's where everybody sort of hung out and smoked until security came and told you can't stand there, and they would push you a little bit further back. So I'm going through this hallway. I'm gonna have a cigarette. This is during the brief period where I smoked. I forget who I was with at the time. It was me and somebody else, and I'm walking through the hallway, and I don't realize there's Natasha on the floor, just sort of slumped over, strung out on some fucking drug because she was always on something, with two of her friends. And the only reason I realized she was there is I was walking by because she goes, "Hey, Angela!" And I turned and I looked down at her. I'm like, "Oh, hey, Natasha," and keep walking. And she goes, "You're a cunt." Pump the brakes. I back up and I'm like, "Beg your pardon?" She's like, "You're a cunt." Now she's trying to get on her feet and her friends are laughing and helping her up. So I stand there waiting for her to get to her feet, and she said, "You tried to give Johnny your herpes." So, interesting fact about Natasha and Johnny. They were obsessed with herpes. Never gonorrhea, never chlamydia, never AIDS, nothing like that. Whenever they didn't like somebody, they had herpes. Always. And according to them, everybody had herpes. But I let the tirade continue because I'm actually finding this amusing, and I'm interested to see where it's going to go. So, she's ranting at me, her friends are laughing, she could barely freaking stand up. I'm not scared at this point because all I need to do is stick my thumb on her head and just push and she's gonna be down on her ass. But she's going and going, but then she manages to say something about my boyfriend. Now here's the thing, you could say whatever you really want about me, you're not gonna bother me. But if you talk about my friends, or you talk about somebody that I care about, it's a bad plan. I'll just put it that way. So it's at that moment that I take a step forward. Now, I don't know if I was going to do anything. I can't honestly remember my mindset at the time. I don't know if I was going to hit her. I don't know what I was going to do. I'm not the kind of person that hits first. I never have been. I've always been a defend yourself kind of person. And luckily, I've been in very minimal fights in my life, so I can honestly say that none of them I have ever hit first. I've always just defended myself. So it's a good side to be on. And I don't agree with putting your hands on people anyway, so I only really advocate it unless you're really trying to defend yourself. So I take a step forward. And so at this point where my Batcave friend, I can't remember his name for the life of me, comes out of left field and just swoops me away down the hallway. And he was this really cool guy. I can't remember his name, but he was so nice. He was Indian. He was from India. And he always wore this long black skirt, this fishnet top, so all you saw was nipples. And he had tons of rosary beads and a spike collar. And, I don't know if you remember this hairstyle, but back in the day, it was always really short black hair and then long pieces here that were gelled into sort of strips that made like a cage over the face. He was really nice. And so where he whisks me to the far end of the hallway to now we're by the front doors. I just remembered that my boyfriend, Steve, has no idea what just happened. It's not like there were cell phones where I could be like, "Hey, in the hallway, almost got into a fight with an asshole." No, nothing like that. So he has no idea. Batcave is huge, tons of people. So it turned out he was looking for me for almost an hour. Finally, he comes around the hallway and he sees me talking to this guy and he sees my face and I just kind of give him the eye roll because I assumed, because since Natasha is still going for it, giving it her best, like, Oscar moment, screaming, carrying on, saying, I want to choke her until she dies, whatever. I assumed he knew what had basically just went down. So I assumed he would come over and, see how I was, see how I was doing. But no, he sees that I'm talking to this goth guy and thinks that our relationship is now over. I have met somebody else, and he takes off. Bless this boy in his fishnet shirt, being so kind and diplomatic and genuinely trying to distract me from the frickin' fiasco that is taking place around the corner. She is giving it her all, the highest pitch temper tantrum one has ever heard in their lives, and it's really hard not to get pissed off because, number one, I could be downstairs listening to Black Tape for a Blue Girl perform, but no, I'm listening to this crap. So I'm mad, and definitely one of my low points, I start getting obnoxious and I just start yelling things. I think I was making up poems at that point, like roses are red, violets are blue, go fuck yourself. I really have no excuse other than the fact that I was 17 years old, and I wasn't trying to antagonize or goad her. I was just pissed off and trying to vent. So I'm now on the lookout for Steve, and there are these two upstairs rooms. One room is the room that plays primarily goth music, and then the other room, they play goth industrial. It's the bigger room. And I found him sat in a corner of the goth room, just sort of sat on the floor, head in his hands, 100% despair, and I'm like, because it was at that moment that I realized what he saw when he came around the corner. And now I have to sit down and explain it to him. So I sat down next to him, and he looks at me with this look as if I'm about to break up with him. Did you not hear Natasha giving it her Oscar performance in that hallway, freaking out? He was so blinded by what he had seen that he just completely shut that out, as if it didn't even happen. I don't know how anybody could shut that out, but he did. So I had to explain to him what happened, and the second he realized that she was involved, it all sort of made sense, and that's when he said, I thought that you were trying to hook up with such and such. Even he remembered his name. I don't know why I can't remember his name. I'm usually good at remembering things like that. I missed Black Tape for Blue Girl. I missed Sofia Run. I missed the whole show, and it was like $25 to get in that night, so I was really pissed off. So I missed out on a good show. I lost $25. So I want to say around the year maybe 99, 2000, I stopped seeing Natasha at clubs altogether. And I think she pretty much dropped out of the scene. But Johnny stayed very active. And he's somebody that I saw who frequented the bank quite a bit. And I remember often seeing him in the back room of the bank. And the back room of the bank is something you probably heard me refer to a lot, and something you'll hear from me in the future. I plan to do a video about it because the back room of the bank was like an entity unto itself. Johnny never really grew up out of that headspace, and he was still very catty, very drama-oriented, and he had his feuds with other people. More specifically with my, at the time, best friend James, who was also gay. They would dance at each other, like make little catty dance moves. It was just so freaking funny. But they hated each other. One night in the back room of the bank, James is there in full force. He's got his asymmetrical wig on, like short black asymmetrical wig, his hat on, he's got his sleeve belt, he's got his Virgin Prunes half top on, and he's got his lollipop. The lollipop was his dancing prop. So it's in his mouth, it's out of his mouth, he's dancing to some song, and it was almost like this happened in slow motion. Johnny's there dancing. James pulls the lollipop out of his mouth as if a split-second decision, looks at Johnny, and just, boom, hurls it with dead accurate aim and hits him right in the back of the head, and he just sort of loses balance and teeters off to one side. Now, should I have laughed at that as hard as I did? Yes, because it was funny. The visual to this day was freaking hilarious. Johnny had his moments where he did some horrible things to James as well, so kind of had it coming to him. But again, I do not advocate violence, honestly. If you could do anything you can to avoid it, do it. I don't know where Johnny is in life. I don't know where he is, what he's up to, how he's doing, but I can tell you that I am actually friends with Natasha on Facebook. We speak every now and again. She cringes when she thinks about the kind of person she was when she was younger. She knows that she was a pain in the ass. She knew that she was obnoxious. She's not that person anymore, but think about it. How many of us can honestly say that we've never had a moment in our lives where we didn't look back at something we said or did and just kind of go, We've all had them. I hope you've enjoyed your infusion of 90s drama. There's definitely a ton more. And thanks for watching. Bye.